And it's 7:30. Thanks so much for joining us here on Facebook Live for our next installment of Green and Gold Live. I'm Vince Vetrano, joined once again by the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. And as we do every week after the Packer game, we're going to chat with Wayne right here on Facebook Live for a more in-depth look at what the Packers did and a look ahead to next week's game. And most importantly, Wayne, we're taking your questions. Not your questions. You don't have any questions. You have the answers. We're taking your questions here, so make sure you join us here. Post your questions. I got Facebook all up and waiting for those questions to come in. But I'll get the conversation going, Wayne. Number one thing fans are talking about this morning, the offense, at least for the first half, finally looked right.
Yeah, and that's the story of that game yesterday. You know, I mean, the second half, it was 31-3, okay? So beyond that, that game was pretty much over. But the Lions made a nice run. Don't get me wrong. They made some plays. The Packers defense was missing 5 key starters, basically. I count Dayton Jones as a starter. He's in the rotation. And the thing about that is that you're missing 5 people that start on your defense on all 5 levels, and especially in the secondary where we're missing Sam Shields and Morgan Burnett. That left a very young secondary out there, and at times the Lions had their way with it. But I thought also the Packers defense against the run, I think, is resolute, and that continues to be very good. So they're turning these teams to one-dimensional, and that's always much easier to defend. But the story yesterday, offense scored on its first 5 possessions, Vince, and scored touchdowns on 4 of those possessions, 31 first-half points. That was nice to see. Was it a matter of the scheme, Wayne, or was Jordy Nelson more comfortable out there? Is it a matter of another week, these two are back together, Rodgers and Nelson, and getting back in that rhythm that we talked so much about? That's no question. That's a big part of it. You know, Jordy was unable to do anything during the off-season program. No mini-camp stuff, no OTAs, very little training camp. And then, you know, they put him on the field against Jacksonville, and you know. We want it to be right away. Exactly. Let's go. He's back. We want it to be 2014 again. And it's not. We're 2 years from that. But the point is, and Aaron Rodgers has kept telling me this in the early season, says, you know, Jordy's another couple of weeks away. And we saw, you know, the first 2 games, he caught his share of passes, don't get me wrong, caught some touchdown passes. But the big play was missing. Well, yesterday we saw the big play reemerge with Jordy Nelson. And then a great balance offensively as well. We saw an excellent running attack from the Green Bay Packers, and so great to see Eddie Lacy. And it looked like what we wanted to do early was what kind of back he is. He does better almost, doesn't he? The more carries he gets, and we kept feeding him, and he delivered. Yeah, finally got 17 carries at a game. You know, Eddie's the kind of guy, we always talk about Eddie Lacy. He's a guy who's got to get lathered up a little bit. Well, a big guy like Eddie Lacy, it takes about 15 carries to get him lathered, and he was lathered. I thought he ran very well yesterday, Vince. You know, you look at his first 100-yard day, 17 carries, 103 yards, had a 28-yard run in there, and had the big run at the end of the game that basically sealed it, 10-yard run on 3rd down and 2. Really nice not to have to challenge that defense at the end for the win. Go ahead and get a couple of first downs, and you're good. Questions are starting to come in, Wayne, so let's go with Jerry first. He wants to know if you think we'll see more of Ty Montgomery. I think we'll see more of Ty Montgomery in the backfield. You know, the two changes that were made is the role of Trevor Davis, who has speed in that core, and he dropped a pass yesterday, an easy pass he should have had, and that's okay. He's a rookie, but he has the speed the defense has to respect. And number 2 is Ty Montgomery. Ty Montgomery might be the 5th or 6th best receiver they have, but he's one of the better running back types that they have, and I think you're going to see more and more of him in that role that we saw a lot of Randall Cobb in. Ty Montgomery's just a bigger Randall Cobb. He's a little more physical in terms of stature, and I think you're going to see him more in the offensive backfield as we go forward. A lot of folks were back for this game, Wayne. A special ceremony at halftime. So Robin said she just loved watching the oldies at halftime come out. Talk a little bit about that. The Packers, I mean, every team honors their past greats, but the Packers really do that well. Oh, they really do it well. And they've got a whole department that's basically dedicated to do that. Kathy Dworick is the person who's in charge of that, and she just gets great turnouts from the Packers veterans and alumni. And it really is, Vince, once you're a Packer, you know, you're kind of in the green and gold, and you're a Packer for life, and that's how a lot of these guys feel. Even if they leave Green Bay and go to other teams, they usually come back and say, that was my team, the Packers. This question here, we hit a little bit on it about the second half, but Brandon sort of summed it up as many fans did. What happened to the Packers in the second half? Did we go a little bit prevent on defense, or was it more a function, as you saw it, to just, look, we had a lot of guys out. Matthew Stafford actually really impressed me. He was a pretty decent quarterback yesterday as well. In studying Matthew Stafford going into the game, he really has impressed me. Over the second half of last year, since Jim Bob Cooter took over the Detroit offense, Matthew Stafford has played like a great quarterback. Nobody nobody has more talent. Nobody has more God-given skill than Matthew Stafford in this league. Understand that. But number two, the thing that always held him back was an immaturity to his game, in my opinion. And yet I saw the second half of last year, he was very good, passer rating of over 100. And this year, he's been outstanding. He's playing the game with that great talent, Vince, but it's under control. He knows what he's doing. He's comfortable in the offense. I thought he was outstanding yesterday in the face of some adversity because they couldn't run the football. So it's a one-dimensional situation, and then you're down 31-3. That's not as easy as it might look.
Cos Garcia wants to know a little bit about the play calling. Can Aaron Rodgers make play calling? Mike McCarthy seems to play it safe after great first halves. Was it that so much, and who in those situations? I mean, Aaron always has the ability to audible out. Is that where the relationship is? The plays are still coming in from Mike, and Aaron has an opportunity to change it?
Yeah, generally the quarterback has an opportunity. He might have a run-pass option in a particular play. He certainly can audible and change a play at the line of scrimmage. They don't do it as much as people think, but Aaron certainly has that right. He has the knowledge of the offense to be able to do that. Hey, Vince, you're up 31-3. I don't know if I don't have a problem with how they approached the rest of the game. And you asked me a moment ago, we had a question, what about defensively? What happened to the defense? Well, they played a little more zone back there on the back end because they were so young. They had so many new guys in there. And even Demarius Randall went out of the game. He was ill. He played through some illness yesterday. Tough guy. And he came back into the game later. But you had a lot of young guys out there. And to put them up there square across from a receiver like Marvin Jones, man-to-man, that's hard to do. So they backed off a little bit in that regard and played more zone, more because of the personnel they had on the field than anything else.
A Badger-related question here. Of course, Badgers coming off that huge win.
Yeah,
we could talk all day about that. But, man, a lot of fans here who are Badger fans as well really want to see Jared Abbrederis do well, and we didn't see a whole lot of him. Jeff wanted to see, other than special teams, no Jared Abbrederis at wide receiver. Looked good in preseason. Why hasn't he played more?
That's a good question. He's got guys ahead of him right now that are in the mix, but I still think this kid's going to play. They love Jared Abbrederis. He's a great football player. The only thing that's held him back have been injuries, but this year he's healthy, and I think you're going to see more of him. I think you'll see some of Jared maybe in a kick return capacity, and it wouldn't surprise me. Again, this is a long season, folks. Okay, we're only 3 games into it. You can see Jared Abbrederis at wide receiver a good amount in the second half of the season.
What do you think about the soft zone defense we play? This from Bob Johnson. Said receivers are having career games against us. Again, you were mentioning some of the personnel issues as well, but is there a scheme theme to look at there as well?
I don't know, Vince. I mean, a lot of it, the way Dom likes to play his defense, he likes press man coverage, so that's one-on-one. Watch the outside. You can't see it as much on TV because the camera angle focuses in too closely, but if you're at the game, keep an eye on the outside people and the wide receivers. See where they are. See where the Packers are. They'll play a lot of man coverage across the board. Press coverage means the cornerback is like within 3 yards of the wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. And then I see a lot of times they're in a single safety high. Well, that means that cornerback out there on the edge, he's on his own. And if he doesn't get the jam or he doesn't make the play on the ball, that's going to be a big play. That happens on occasion.
Packers have an early bye this year, and it feels odd when you're going into this. We're just getting things going here, three weeks in, and all of a sudden we're taking a break. But it always seems like the bye comes at a great time for the team. We have an opportunity to get some guys healthier. Are some of these guys going to be back in a couple of weeks?
I would think so. A lot of these guys, I think Morgan Burnett certainly has a chance. Clay Matthews has a chance to be back. I'm not sure on Sam Shields' situation long-term what that's all about. But LaTroy Guion, another guy who probably has a chance to be back after this bye week. It comes at a good time from the standpoint of defensive injuries, and they're really kind of thinning the ranks there defensively. But I think what we've also seen here, and what the game yesterday meant was, you look at two teams, starting-wise, somewhat even, but the depth factor was what yesterday was all about. The Lions had a lot of injuries. The Packers had a lot of injuries. The Packers had a little more depth.
Well, that gives credit to Ted Thompson then. I mean, we talk a lot about whether or not he's picking up big free agents, and reasonable people can debate whether or not his strategy is correct, and we do. But one thing that he is good at is finding those guys who maybe aren't your starters, but they're quality second string, even third string guys when you have to go down that depth chart a bit.
And the depth on this team, and we talked about it this summer during preseason, is on the perimeter. It's the outside linebackers, it's the cornerbacks, even the safeties. That's where the depth of this defense is, and that's what was tested these last couple of weeks with injuries.
Why not? I'll give this guy some. Justin Sider wants to know, he's thinking about making pulled chicken sandwiches for the next viewing party. Should he use spicy buffalo sauce or a whiskey-based barbecue?
I don't like pulled pork or chicken.
No pulled nothing?
I don't like them pulling my pork or chicken.
Right. Why are you messing with anything, too? Yeah. Wisconsin bratwurst, right?
Exactly.
You're good to go no matter where you get it.
That didn't sound right, but...
Jason wants to know...
This is only Facebook, right?
Yeah, we're good. The rules are a little bit different. It's not broadcast. Jason wants to know, with all the young guys emerging at linebacker, is it worth seeing what we can get for Clay Matthews on the market? Would you possibly talk about trading that guy? You wouldn't, right?
No. No, I wouldn't trade Clay Matthews. No. I don't think you just trade future Hall of Famers. You know what I mean? You just don't.
Asked and answered, right?
Yeah.
Lane Taylor has been a surprise. This from Mark. I've not heard his name called. Good news for an offensive lineman. Any comments on that?
Yes. Good news. Offensive linemen, kind of like officials. If you never hear about them, they're doing pretty well, So Lane has done well in his first 2 games. I think the strength for him has been his run blocking. We've wondered about the pass blocking. That seems okay. It seems fine. And so far, so good with Lane Taylor in there at guard. He's got a good tackle next to him in David Bakhtiari and a solid center in J.C. Treader.
Can you talk a little bit, Wayne, about how the bye week sets up for these guys? Then I know everybody's in today usually, and then how do they set up this week? And then do you come in the next week and do the usual schedule, or how does Mike McCarthy approach the bye
Usually,
week?
Mike, and it changes sometimes year to year, but usually what Mike will do is give these guys a good amount of time off. Yeah, they'll be in today. They'll basically correct the mistakes made in the game yesterday. And then generally he lets them go for a while. Now, it used to be they'd come back maybe on Wednesday and maybe practice Wednesday, Thursday, then get a good long weekend. A lot of times I've seen in the past, at least in the mid-season to late season bye weeks, they get a lot more time off. I'm not sure what his schedule will be this week, but chances are they'll get some good time off and get away from the game a little bit. Allows these guys to get out of town, maybe go back, visit family, go to alma maters, see a college game or two.
Right. See them on the sidelines on Saturday afternoon. That's always good. Still time to get a couple more questions in if you're with us on Facebook Live, so let me have it. In the meantime, Wayne, let's look ahead to the New York Giants. NFC East seems stacked this year. Philadelphia is looking great. Giants lost a tough one at Washington. Was it at? No, it was at their house against Washington. Right. What do you see in the New York Giants, who have really had the Packers' number over the last few years?
They've got a great receiving core, and this is a different team than we've seen. The Giants teams that battled the Packers from the NFC Championship game in 2007 all the way to the playoffs in 2011. Those were more physical teams, especially built on that defense. Eli Manning was a red-hot quarterback back then, but they didn't have the offensive skill people they have now. When you look at Odell Beckham Jr., Victor Cruz on that team, Eli's still there playing well. This is a team, so many teams have these great receiving cores, and the Giants are one of those teams.
That one also will be at home for the Green Bay Packers. We talk a lot about home field advantage. It's tough. You say it all the time. It's tough to win football games in the NFL. It's real tough to win on the road. So being at home really is important for this football team.
Well, they were hoping, being at home now for an extended period of time, Vince, that they could catch a rhythm, and that's exactly what they did in that game against the Lions yesterday. They got up on a roll. They used the crowd, I think, to energize them and focus them offensively, and that's something they can do now with 3 more games after the bye. 3 more home games, primetime games, Sunday night, a Thursday night, late Sunday afternoon against the Cowboys, and then a Thursday night game against the New York Giants, or against the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, home games, and maybe the tougher portion of the schedule coming up for the Packers.
What do you do on the bye week, Wayne? Taking some golf? What? Get some things done here?
No, I'm going to work.
Honey-do list?
I'm going to work on the bye week, Vinny. I'm going to be working. I'm actually going to London to broadcast a game for Westwood One Radio, national radio, on the Colts and Jaguars game at Wembley Stadium.
Well, that'll be odd hearing your voice on that one, but we always like hearing you no matter where you are, Wayne. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the questions.
Great
Thanks,
to be with
everybody,
you.
for taking part in our Facebook Live. Again, we'll be back at it. Of course, we got the bye this week. I don't know, you want to come in and take some more cooking questions next week, Wayne?
I think I'll pass on that.
All right.
I can send in Julie. She's a better cook than I.
Great. We'll give you the week off then, and we'll do it again after the Packers beat the Giants in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.